Welcome back. This is part 2 of a boat delivery story called Crazy Crew. And just to remind you, all of my stories are true. I don't make anything up. I changed a couple of the names to protect the guilty, but otherwise, this is what happened. Okay, so I'm sitting at the navigation station. It's about 2 in the morning, it's dark, there's a little red light above the navigation station which is casting a glow in the cabin as Patrick comes down, looking rather crazy, with a knife in his right hand. He was only 4 feet away, and as the boat climbed over a wave, he grabbed the back of the sofa with his left hand to steady himself. I didn't move. "Turn the boat around," he demanded, waving the knife at me. "This isn't what I expected. All this bouncing around, and it's cold, and I'm tired, and I want to go back now." His eyes were slightly glazed, and his hands started shaking. This was maximum sea shock. Now, I'm not a fighter. I was never trained in combat, and the only time I've fired a gun was on an island in Georgia, when a redneck KKK cracker gave me his rifle. "Okay, Patrick, I understand. You want me to turn the boat around and head back to Charleston. Why don't we wait a little while till the sun comes up? Then we can make the turn safely. Make sure we don't get swamped by a wave, okay?" I tried to disarm the situation by agreeing with him. He jabbed the knife toward me. "No. Turn now, right now." "Okay, hang on a minute, Patrick. Let me plot a course back to Charleston." "Okay, sure now, that's a good idea." He was starting to calm down as I continued to agree with him. He dropped the knife down to his side, and as he did, I opened my navigation tabletop and reached in. "What are you doing?" he demanded. "Well, I'm getting another chart so I can finish plotting our return course, Patrick." Inside the navigation table was the emergency flare kit. I carefully rummaged around under the half-opened lid, found the hard plastic case and snapped it open. With my left hand, I worked the plastic flare gun out, pulled it from the desk, and in one swift motion stood up and pointed the snubbed barrel at Patrick's chest. He stepped back and stumbled again as another wave jerked the boat. "Patrick, drop the knife, or I'll swear I'll put a 12-gauge shell into you and it'll burn a big hole in your chest. Do it, now!" Fred, let go of the wheel and come down here, now!" The knife clattered to the floor as the sails clattered above. Fred came slowly down the steps, his mouth open. When I told him to let go of the wheel, the boat had automatically headed into the wind, and the sails were luffing and shaking right now. It made a lot of noise, and I think it confused Patrick. He slumped onto the cabin sole. "Kick that knife over here, please, Fred," I said calmly. "It's okay." Patrick got a bit confused. "Well, judging by the flare gun in your hand and the knife on the floor, he was more than just confused," said Fred. Yeah, he's suffering some kind of sea shock. Look, Fred, go back on deck and get the boat on course, would you? I'll handle this. It'll be okay." He was obviously shaken and upset by what he was seeing, but he nodded at me reassuringly and got us sailing again. Patrick was still sitting on the floor, his back against the cabin door. His breathing was steadier and his eyes more focused. "Hey, put that flare gun down, Captain. Don't point it at me." "Not until we've had a talk. Come and sit in this chair, slowly." I sat across from him, the flare gun in my hand in plain view. I talked to him for an hour, and he admitted he'd done very little sailing, and he had lied on his application so he could get a free vacation. He'd never been out of sight of land on a small boat and was petrified. Everything had spun around in his head for the past 2 days and just exploded the only way he knew how, with violence and threats. I put on my psychologist hat and explained that he was not in any danger out here. The hurricane season was over, we had a strong boat, and he should try to enjoy this once-in-a-lifetime experience. He said he felt under pressure, being second in command, and I told him not to worry. I'd change his position with Fred. He seemed much relieved and apologized for his behavior. I made light of it, said it was understandable, but I was not at all convinced of his sincerity. There was still something shifty about his eyes. He shuffled into his cabin and closed the door. I went up to the cockpit, and as the first colors of the new day appeared directly in front of us, I had a conversation with Fred. I promoted him to first mate and suggested he have as little to do with Patrick as possible during his off watches. Back below, I entered all that had happened into the log. I wanted a written document that would hold up in a court of law if necessary. I slept for an hour, then relieved Fred. The following day, the wind became fluky for a few hours, eventually settling in from the northeast. We had found the trades one day early and 100 miles further west than usual. I altered course to starboard and we headed directly for Tortola, with 20-knot winds, gentle Atlantic rollers, and puffy white clouds overhead. Schools of flying fish occasionally fanned out in front of us, gliding for hundreds of feet, their tails sometimes slapping the surface for an extra boost. In the morning, we'd usually pick up half a dozen which had landed on deck, attracted by the compass light. They were delicious fried whole. Patrick settled down, and now that we were in the trades, the days were warmer and he mellowed out. Fred and I kept an eye on him, and the compact flare gun was always in my pocket. But nothing further happened. When we arrived at Tortola Bay 7 days later, we anchored in the harbour for 3 hours, and I made sure Patrick did his fair share of cleaning up the boat. I told him to pack his few belongings and to leave the loaned jacket aboard. I brought the boat to the dock, gave him his return plane ticket and $50 of my own money, then escorted him to the gate with a security guard. He was told never to come back on Mooring's property, or he'll be turned over to the police. And having had experience with authorities on the previous trip, when 2 crew members had gone on a drunken spree of destruction, I told him he wouldn't like their jail. That story will come later. After officially handing over the boat to the preparation team at Tortola Base, I joined Fred at the bar for a cold beer. Another completed delivery, one that could have turned into a disaster. So, hope you enjoyed that story. Next week, we're going on an adventure in Panama. It's called Run, Joey, Run. It's kind of funny and scary at the same time. Anyway, have a great week. Be safe, be careful, be well. We'll see you next week. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you like it. And please feel free to leave a comment on YouTube. That'd be great. Take care. Bye.